for Women's Studies 440, Spring 2020. So right now you should be working on building your database for our class so that you can analyze data for your final project. But I know that some folks are struggling with that, so I want to do a little tutorial. So the first thing you need to do is choose a topic, and I know most of you have already done that, but let's just say you're a little behind and you haven't done that. You go to the Women's Legislative Coalition package that I posted on Laulima, and you find a topic. So if you want to do something simple and just choose the first topic, you could choose domestic abuse. And you can see that there's actually not only a House bill and Senate bill version of this particular bill related to family courts, but there's actually a bunch of different initiatives related to domestic abuse. So if you were going to choose that topic, you would actually want to search for the House bill and Senate bill version of all of these various proposed bills that have to do with domestic abuse. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm only going to search for one. So what you would do is you would go to, bear with me while my computer loads. Maybe it's not going to. Okay, well, I've already put up the bill, but let's just go through the steps of going to Hawaii State Capitol. You go to the Hawaii State Legislative website, you sign in. I happen to already be signed in, so I don't need to do that. And then you search for the bill you're looking for. So I actually, in a practice run, already looked for Senate Bill 2304. So this time I'll look for a House Bill 2058. Search, make sure it's the right thing. It's related to domestic abuse. Click on the PDF. And then if you don't have the paid version of Adobe, which I don't, you'll open in preview. And then you will save that bill on your computer. All right. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to use Preview rather than Adobe because I don't pay for the paid version. So that's how I'm able to copy and paste stuff from PDFs. If you don't have the paid version of Adobe, you can't do that. And so now I can literally copy and paste the body of the bill, the actual language, and I can include that in an Excel database where I can analyze that information later on. But for now, we're only building the database. So there was a video you had to watch where the woman who has a background in economics showed you how to build a database using the software that she's an expert on. There's a lot of different platforms you can use to create a database, but unfortunately for us, one of the only free platforms is Microsoft Suites. So we'll be using Excel for the purpose of this class because I don't want to make students pay for a database service. Okay, so don't want you to see your gradebook. So I'm going to open. Maybe it'll open. My computer's really slow. And I'm going to do a blank workbook, okay? And so some folks were asking me in the class, how should you label your columns? Like, what information should be in your columns? And to a certain extent, that's up to the individual because, you want to make your database and your Excel cells work for you. But if you're struggling, maybe you've never used Microsoft Excel before, or you've never created your own spreadsheet, or you've never used Excel for the purpose of creating a database, I'm going to give you some ideas that I would do personally if I was creating a database for this class. So some of the items I would want to include are date, data source, document type, data. And of course, if you think there's other things you want to include, feel free to do so. So when I'm entering the date for bills, that's pretty cut and dry. It's going to be the date on the bill. And I see that, why isn't it signed? Oh, here we go. January 17th, 2020. So you do 01/17, 2020. And again, for every bill related to your topic that you're following, you would just put that date where it was signed by all of the people who introduced it. Where did we get the data source? We got it from the Capitol website. It is a bill. That's what type of document it is. And then literally you're just going to copy and paste all of this stuff. You have to do it page by page or line by line. So I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do this first page. Copy, Control C, and paste. And you can see it's a little messy where not all the text went into one cell. So I don't know the way to clean that up off the top of my head using formulas. So you can literally just copy and paste everything into the correct cell so that it's all together. All right. For bills, you might want to include a column for signers. So these are the legislators who signed on to that bill and helped introduce it. If you know of anyone lobbying for or against that measure, you might include that information. But what about other types of documents, right? I said you could use other types of documents. So let's just say that you are looking at op-eds. Op-ed, you could just literally search op-ed, civil beat, domestic abuse. So this is a bit old, so you wouldn't want to use it for the purpose of your 440 project. You would want something that directly relates to the 2020 legislative session, but we'll just click on it because it does have to do with my topic. And we'll use this. So the date on this is, it's relatively recent, but it's not 2020, so it still would not be appropriate. But let's just pretend it is for the purpose of data entry. So you would put the date, let's see, 10/24/2018. Civil beat website, op-ed, and then you would literally just copy and paste all of the information here in data. So for signers, obviously there's not any signers, so you would say NA because it's not a bill. There's no one going to be lobbying for or against an op-ed because it's an op-ed, not a bill, so you put NA. But then you might realize that for op-eds and letters to the editor, there's additional information you want. So maybe, like I said, your op-eds and letters to the editors should directly relate to a 2020 legislative issue. So maybe you want to have a column here that's strictly for articles being published in news outlets that has to do with their connection to the 2020 legislative session. So you might have a column for op-eds and letters to the editor labeled bill connection or something like that. And so here you can, if the op-ed or the letter to the editor references a specific bill or bills, you can include that information in this column. So you start to see what your database is going to look like. I will say this for the data section. For now, that is a lot of text to have in one cell, and you will likely break up that text into smaller portions once you start the analysis portion of our class. For now, you're just building a database, compiling a bunch of different documents in an Excel spreadsheet so that everything is centrally located and easier to analyze when it comes to that point in the semester. So for now, I think it's perfectly acceptable to include all of the text from an article in Civil Beat or all of the text from a bill in one cell, in one column. However, once you start thinking about the unit of analysis you want to use for purposes of analyzing your data, you may find you need to break up your data column into multiple columns. So when I've had students do these types of content analysis projects in the past, some students have chosen to have lots of documents to analyze. And in that situation, the unit of analysis might be each document. You might only come up with 1 or 2 themes per document. And in that type of situation, keeping the data cells the way that they currently are probably makes sense. However, if you want to choose fewer documents, or perhaps there's only one bill related to your topic and you're forced to choose having fewer documents in your analysis, your unit of analysis will likely be smaller. So perhaps you're analyzing each sentence, in which case you may want to break up your columns by paragraph, or even by each sentence if that's easier for you. And then if you're really struggling to find documents related to your topic, your unit of analysis might be as small as each individual word in a document or phrases. So not full sentences, but more than just one word. In which case, again, you're going to want to break up your data columns and cells in a smaller unit to make your analysis easier. But for now, I hope this video helps as you work on creating your database. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm also happy to do electronic office hours and walk any student through the steps of creating their database if they need help. And I'll create a more in-depth video about analyzing the data and choosing a unit of analysis once we get past the database portion of this class. Alrighty guys, thank you.